Brave soldiers of the Empire, we have called and you have answered. Today we stand in front of
You?
the enemy,
Hello?
ready to die
I thought I'd lost you.
gloriously
Well,
in the service
since I found you
of
here,
our
and this guy's going to be
emperors.
waffling on for
Today
quite some time,
fight for
let's continue with the
glory,
story
glory,
with the moves of law.
And welcome back.
Welcome
right.
back.
So let's talk about Saturday.
Saturday, oh man, this is where the hype really builds.
What a day. What a day.
So, I mean, you are jonesing hard for battle.
I woke up with like one thing in mind,
Yeah.
and that was just to go and do battle. That was all I wanted to do. We were up and ready and getting all the gear on.
Yeah. Because what time was the battle on the
At
Saturday?
10?
And this is
I
when...
know mustering for monsters was 10, but I think the
Yeah.
actual battle was 11.
Yeah, so it's pretty early, right? And yeah,
It's
yeah.
pretty
So we
early
should have
for
said
us.
we were monstering first and acting as your players second.
Oh,
Which
bear
I
in
think,
mind, I drank loads the night before.
Yes,
That didn't
we both
phase
did.
me at all. I was
Yeah.
so like,
yeah,
ready for it.
Well, I think we both drank to a sensible level, right?
I was pretty drunk.
Yeah, but not like stupidly.
Oh
so.
no, I wasn't falling
Yeah,
about
yeah,
the
yeah.
place, but
But no, so and I think like getting ready for monstering. I think having monstering first and being your character second is probably the best combination. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I'm saying that as that's been the case twice,
mm-hmm.
but I think like I think the idea of playing your player first and monstering second, it would be like if you died on that first thing, then you have to go through the whole thing of playing a different character. Well, I think if that happened to you so late on the Sunday, it wouldn't be so much a big issue.
I found it's for me. It's just warming up.
yeah,
Like there's
all
a lot
that,
of confidence building and going and doing a first battle when you don't need to worry about too much.
And what a battle!
Fuck me, what a battle!
So we all get
Yes.
obviously all our stuff together.
Go monstering up.
Yeah,
get all
we
our
kind
stuff
of
on.
grab
We
our
actually
stuff.
still missed the main of our pack though when we
Yeah.
came out. So we joined like a smaller offshoot from that.
Yes,
Um,
you get sort of your commander given to you from a group of people.
yeah,
more
and this
experienced,
again we did the whole where you get black. Like what is that stuff?
It's just like black face paint.
Yeah, I
essentially,
mean
but,
basically you black up your eyes and black up your mouth. It's not like black face.
Yeah, I
or
know what you're
anything,
saying,
but,
yeah.
you you do the few bits in your arms.
Yeah,
because I
'cause
was.
I
it was
forgot to-
it was hot, man. So
Yeah.
I wasn't. I was sleeveless,
yeah,
just in the gimp armor.
Yeah.
And so then, right. So we get all that stuff ready, go out there, and then basically the battle setup is
Yeah.
it's really interesting,
yeah,
right?
really
It's a
interesting.
2-stage battle,
Yeah.
right? And you don't get to respawn in part of the first or second battle, right? So you only have a few skills
Yeah.
that are like stay with me, which is the one where if you get downed, then someone
Gets
can pick
an
you
arc
up for
and
1 HP.
Unstoppable as well.
Oh, did we have unstoppable?
I think so because you ended up using it massively. Remember?
No,
On
I
the
didn't use
fort hold.
unstoppable. No. Well, I didn't use it. Other people did.
Oh, right. I thought you said.
Oh
anyway,
no, I did
you
use
did
it.
use it. You had
Oh
unstoppable.
fuck! I did use it. Sorry.
yeah.
No, sorry. That's dumb. Alright, so the setup was there are 3 forts in this is the first stage. There are 3 forts set up which are made up of these like wooden fences,
Yeah,
right? But they're
yeah.
like
Kind of
individual-
stage safe, but you know.
Yeah, they're kind of these individual blocks,
Yeah.
right? And they kind of set up these
movable
little
terrain that they can
perimeters.
obviously put around and stuff.
So we're in this unit, and the unit is going to be designated to kind of we're going to leave the fort at some point,
Yeah.
and we're going to kind of do hit and run attacks. At, Navarre style.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there and watching the colossal amount of forces. And what were
Yes.
they? They were like there was Wintermark with
Yeah.
their shield wall.
Yeah.
They were back. Then who else was in there?
I think. Was
Dawn?
it Dawn? Yeah. I
Oh,
want
no,
to say
Dawn were with us, weren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right. Was it maybe the marches and stuff as well?
Yeah, Marches I think were there.
We probably got all the nations wrong. But anyway,
Yeah.
there was a bunch of different nations. That's kind of what is cool about Empire as well. When you're looking across the field and you just see all these different coloured nations.
Yeah, and they're all moving in their own little formations.
And
so-
occasionally they merge and things and bleed into each other and people get separated off and you might end up just
Looks
by the way the
amazing.
line crumbles. You
Is
might
it-
end up just locked into a different nation just helping them because you can't get back to your own line.
Mhm.
Like, or crazy stuff like that can happen. I mean, you should try and stay with your nation obviously just because you get like
in
that
a
cohesion
unit,
there.
right?
But like sometimes things evolve.
But okay, so they're walking across, and
Yeah.
they basically make this kind of massive line, and they hit the first fort, and that goes down pretty quick, right?
yeah.
Then they keep marching along, and then the second fort. We're
Yeah.
in the third fort at
The
this
third
point.
fort, yeah.
So they come down, and they start to get to the point where they can start to engage the second fort, and that's when we marched out
Yeah.
right in our unit. But it's just us.
Yeah.
Right? I think there's one other unit to our left, way off to the left.
Yeah.
But basically, it's us, and we're kind of marching around trying to threaten this we're on their side and they're kind of ploughing
Yeah,
into
and the idea was
fort.
just like basically give them something to think about so the second fort didn't get overwhelmed.
Yeah, to kind of
And-
draw some units away, but not maybe necessarily to engage,
Yeah.
just to kind of be a threat.
And the interesting thing about this battle as well was because it was fought in 2 stages. The first stage you got no respawns, so if you died, you just basically had to leave the field and go
And wait for the second one.
to the second stage. So you got, and so it's more a case of like a lot of the powers were revolving around this idea that we have a certain sort of attrition rate.
Oh, we were Jotun as well, which was
Jotun.
Jotun. Sorry. We mentioned in the last one. They're a kind of regimented orc force,
Yeah.
right? They're like
They're kind of cool to play.
I got really into the RP on the way the battles are fought. I'm really starting to see this whole. I'm seeing things differently. There's
The
like
monstering is great. When
there's,
you...
we were RPing those guys, right?
Yeah.
Especially what happened next, right? So we come out, well, not next, but so we start coming out, and we're trying to threaten this force. We're clearly outnumbered.
Yeah.
They start overwhelming the second fort.
Yeah.
Coming on us, and we're like starting to back away, move away, maneuver back. And then what? Then crazy shit happened, right?
So we fall back to the fort, and for a while it just stays kind of quiet there. So we fall back to the second fort, and in the distance you can just see these pole arms and so the third fort, and then you can just see these pole arms and stuff waving up in the air in the second fort. So
they did
inside the line.
They did one hell of a stand.
There was
in
a
there.
good
I
hole
thought it
there.
was done because it was like watching ants like just swarm over something. You were like, "There's nothing going to survive."
Because bear in mind, when we got pushed back the first time, the idea was supposed to be that we would pull some heat off them. So there was a point when we weren't on that contact line, but they were just taking all the heat. You know, and they did well holding it as long as
It was
they could.
really impressive.
And it was kind of interesting the way the battle was set up because each fort was kind of like a roadblock of attrition.
It was great to watch. It reminded me of those old what's it called, those sharp books. We're watching the description of these big Napoleonic wars of columns moving into an area, like
and then suddenly the column's coming for you.
Yeah.
And then it's like the third.
And
fort.
there was no illusion that we were not going to hold. Like this was we were already like we're going to get steamrolled.
It's an Alamo kind
They've
of
just
situation.
literally we've divided our forces. These defenses we have aren't because we had to move ours out even further. So they were really wide.
Yeah.
They're not going to do shit. We're going to get fucking murdered. So, we start manoeuvring out again.
Yes.
And then we see, because basically over on the left flank where the second fort kind of is, we see this group breaking out of there.
Yeah, some of them managed to sally out and fall back to our
Some of them
group.
managed to sally out of that and
It's
try and get back to
crazy.
the line. So we start manoeuvring out. We do a kind of a charge, right?
Yeah, we kind of cover their retreat, right?
And then immediately, bam, I catch an arrow directly in the face.
Yes, you just literally, first bit, just took an arrow straight in the
Didn't
head.
see it coming, had no idea, caught it square in the mooey. And for a second, I was like, what the fuck just happened? Like, I had no idea what happened.
So-
and then I looked down and there was the arrow. And I was like, oh shit, I just went straight down. And so someone actually said, I'll just go straight down. I think, it's me.
So and then the guy behind you is me.
Yeah.
So like literally I grab you and I'm like, you're not done yet, you know,
Yeah, stay with me.
stay
right?
with me, yeah. And then I just chucked you up and then just threw you behind me and went forward. It was so cool.
So everyone charges,
Yeah.
right? And I'm trying to tag on behind.
Yeah.
But then there's this, we basically charge across the front line of the enemy at that stage, right? We're running parallel along the front of them. And they oblige us by starting to move forward into that line. Crazy shit, right?
We just got smashed.
What happened to you at that stage?
So at that stage, bear in mind, it turned so quickly from us actually dealing some casualties to them to just getting obliterated on the side, or just getting pushed. We got wheeled all the way round like a hand on a clock being turned by an impatient finger around the fucking the camp. We just get rolled. You managed to slip, I think, inside the fort at that point.
So what happened to me was, okay, this is so reminiscent of the first episode.
Yeah.
My knee started to go again.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've literally never had any issues with my knees ever in the past. It's never been an issue. I do yoga, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
It's like I swim quite regularly.
Yeah, you're a fit guy, dude.
I'm getting better, right?
You're getting
but
better, yeah.
Never had any problems with my knees.
Yeah.
Twice in a row,
Yeah.
I twist my knee or do something weird. So one of the guys, I'm going to give a little shout out to Jeffrey Willoughby, who was the first person to ever reply to anything that we'd done to the podcast.
Comment, I
yeah.
think,
And his recommendation was, it was a really nice comment, but to get one of these knee braces or something to kind of support the knee. And I thought that was a really sweet thing and completely ignored his advice.
Yeah.
Go to my first battle. What happens? My knee starts fucking out again. So
Yeah.
oh man, the shame. Deep apologies, sir. I'm going to order one immediately, and
But it's
hopefully it
cool.
won't be an
People
issue
just
again.
are really good, right? Helping with that kind of information. Like, everyone cares, right?
Yeah, watch your knees, people. Watch your knees. It could
But
happen
it's
to
great.
anyone.
And I think the thing is because the ground is kind of constantly kind of a bit unstable, right? Because it's not like you're running on a
How
map.
often
or
do I run in boots across fields
Yeah.
and through forests?
Yeah.
I don't do that very often. My body was just like,
Yeah.
what the
It's a
hell are you
different
doing?
type of activity.
Yoga and swimming is not
Yeah,
impact on my legs
does
at
not
all. Right?
prepare you for it.
Right, yeah. So basically, what happened was this started to move off this line, and I was just like, "Oh man!" So that's when it started to feel a bit funky because we did that run, right? It was a run. By run, I was running when I got hit by the arrow. By the way, so I basically was like, "Fuck!" So I saw everyone charging in on me, and I was like, "Well, the distance between me and the enemy forces is getting shorter and shorter." And I looked back at the fort, and I was like, "I need to get back in the fort."
Yeah.
So I ran back and basically just kind of like joined the ranks inside the fort.
And then the door closed. We couldn't get in. Basically, we just got pushed back, and then like a few people managed to slip inside
It
the fort.
was
The rest of us
brutal.
thought we could hold it and then push them back and crush them between the fort and you. But we pushed and we were just immediately repelled.
It was horrendous. That was a winter mark shield wall that moved around on the edge because that was
so
the first thing
good.
to attack the left flank of the
It
fort.
just destroyed us, and we just got pushed away from the fort. I could just see it vanishing like a tide drawing me out, so I could no longer see the shore. And it got down to like me and like three guys just. And everyone was shouting us like, "Give up! You know, you fought well. Throw your weapons down." And I'm like, "No, you're not taking me, Empire!" And I just go out singing, and then I give this whole like speech about how that they're shit and they're not going to take me. And then I just feel this prodding in my chest, and I look over to my side, and this guy's just there with a spear, just poking me completely po-faced, and I'm just like, "Oh yeah!" And everybody laughs. I laugh. Because it's such a ridiculous thing. It's like giving it all that, like talked myself up like I was fucking business and they should not mess.
You didn't have time to bleed, Ian. I think
I was like, I just went, ugh.
But you definitely didn't have time to duck. So
my death groan turned into a laugh along with all of their laughs
That's
halfway
hilarious.
down. It was that ridiculous.
Man, the combats, there were some good laughs in combat,
Yeah.
right? Right, so yeah, so I watched you guys just get destroyed.
Yeah, so I'll just say before we get...
Yeah,
so
sorry.
then after that, when you die, you basically have to go to this other bit. And bear in mind, most of that that's most the force at this point, right? It has now gone to the forest because we've all died in the first stage. So we're just waiting there. Huge blocks of people, right? Everybody else who's died previously is there. And we're just waiting there. And waiting there, and waiting there. We can hear this distant battle. It's pretty loud. And it gets quieter and quieter, but it keeps going for a very, very long time.
It was so
And what
awesome.
happened?
It was so awesome. So I'm in this fort, and everyone's got this. It's fucking Zulu. None of us had any.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've got in my head.
It was like we weren't. None of us thought we were going to make it out, but there was this because we were the Jotun. I feel like there was this RP of just stay fucking cool, man the lines, do your job, do your best, right? And it was at this point I managed to find I think there was a physic or I might have remembered to do the thing at that point.
Yeah,
I can't remember. It's all a bit vague, but we're all manning the walls, which aren't really that helpful, but they are there.
Yeah. That just basically means you don't need people on that bit of the line, right?
Exactly. So this Wintermark shield wall comes around on the left flank and starts hitting the left-hand side of the fort. And then we basically get surrounded in this giant... It's a semicircle, this fort, by the way. It's not like a large thing. It's like a semicircle on the edge of the map. Yeah. So there's nowhere to go, right? There's nowhere to run to.
Yeah.
There's no... This is where we die. You know? Right here. There's no surrender. There's just us holding out as long as we can against this overwhelming... heavily armed force, and they came in and were basically just, and this is the first time I get to use my sword, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like getting to grips with it, and I'm loving it. I'm having the best time. Like it's just on the line, and I'm trying to get the guys next to me G'd up and like concentrating and like giving like just talking to people and getting this solid movement on, and we just held, and it was just sorry bang. I went down, and then there was the help me up thing. But what was really interesting was because there was no like respawns or anything.
Yeah.
There was this, because of the skill selection that PD had given us, it gave us this attrition warfare. Just everyone can help
So
each other
well
out,
thought
and
out,
just.
right?
But we at that stage immediately, as soon as we got into, there was no more medical stuff. There was definitely no way I could get healed anymore.
Yeah.
So
There's just these skills,
yeah,
and that's all you've got, and they're going to run out.
that eventually everyone's going to run out of hero points, right?
Yeah.
They broke through on the left flank, right? This big shield wall, and
Yeah.
they're inside the fort,
Oh,
right?
jeez.
And then so if it starts to bug out, it's not a proper wall anymore. Then everything starts to shift back, right? Until we're just
start
getting
pushing
more and
them
more
back out.
compressed, right? So you're fighting literally shoulder to shoulder, the guy right on your back, and the enemy's right in front of you. But we just battling and like, Ian taught me a really good technique, by the way, which I'm sure will look ridiculous if loads of people do it. But I get my shield and I hold it out in front of me and I wiggle it around, okay? And I wiggle it in front of the enemy. And the enemy, sometimes, if they're new players, they'll just try and hit my shield because it's a moving thing like a cat with a ball.
People just wanna hit
the more
stuff,
experienced players don't give a fuck about me wobbling my shield around, Ian.
Yeah.
They are not impressed. They look at me like I am a moron. But then there's a guy next to them like prodding it,
Yeah. No, it's good. It's interesting. There's a few little things, and often what will happen in a battle is you'll kind of be fighting someone, and then you've got a certain sort of move set, right? Like you've got a couple of moves you have.
I have a very short. I could write it on a napkin. My skills,
and the other guy probably only has a very sort of small number of viable skills. Because that's the constantly so interesting thing about combat. You're suddenly thrown against some guy with this weapon and that defense, and then a totally different weapon. Maybe he's got two swords. That's very different from fighting a guy with a spear and a shield. Or maybe you know all these different things, and all of a sudden it's like how my skill set against that is very narrow. So it's like then. After a couple of hits, he's probably learnt all of my stuff. I've probably learnt all of his stuff.
I feel like that we had a fair amount of, but it was such a diverse mix of like weapons inside the fray,
Yeah.
But slowly we're getting inched in. We lose our wall. We're getting more and more compact to the point where the referees actually have to say, stop. Oh, this happened a bunch, by the way, with people getting injured or something happened. We kept having to stop, and that was. But it was good though because it gave you a chance because it was full on, right? It was really intense.
Must have been. I think that's probably the most intense thing that probably any of us have had in terms of just combat.
It was
right?
Because bear in mind, I like to win, right? So I was like, let's just fucking this, you know what I mean? Let's take every single one of them down as we can. And they're coming in, and then again get pushed back. This time round, though, we've taken so many casualties that we can't make the dome that the referees are allowing us to move out to, right? So we're really weak on this right flank. And I'm yelling at people, we need some bodies on the right, and no one's moving. And one of the referees just goes, you're going to have to go get them. And I was just like, okay. And I was just like, ran over and just grabbing people and just being like, over there on the right, over there on the right.
So good, right?
But then that was like, that whole side started to crumble up. And I was trying to fight, and it was just, It was over.
Had gone, right?
It was over. Yeah, it was over. I had one hit point for so long.
Yeah.
And I was just, trying to. That was the chair, by the way.
Yeah.
Just want to say that was the chair.
But like,
not
so
me.
I think, but the important thing was right. So this went on for ages. So from my perspective, it was half an hour at least. It probably was longer. That's how it felt anyway.
When I got downed, I walked away and I was like, damn it! Like, I was. Kind of, and then someone was like, man, I heard someone say that was one hell of a hold or something like that. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess it was, right? Like I didn't stop and smell the roses of the achievement we had by
it felt like a defeat
out.
In the moment, but in a
if it sounds, by the way, for this whole battle that we're being really cocky, please revert to our first monstering battle where we got just knocked around the field for a very long time. Yeah, so and really, like, hats off to the adversaries and all of that. Hats off to everyone, all the people that were involved.
All the time. And it's so good. What I love about it is that people commit to monstering. And you have, like, it's not just, like, role play. Like, it's a sport as well. It's great fun.
I was definitely role-playing the monsters that we were assigned to. Yeah. And I think the battle on Sunday was a wonderful example of
the narrative of the battle was fantastic.
Yeah.
And, like, so you guys...
sorry.
No, yeah, you guys kind of come through... and it's been ages. But what I think had actually happened, and why what you did was so important, was it just dissolved so many of their resources. I heard so many stories of physics not having any more healing left for when they went into the forest.
I also think people were just battling for a long time.
Yeah.
Like it was just we were.
You
the
held
battle
so
was
long.
I've no concept of time, but the whole thing took hours, right? Like many hours. So part 2.
Yeah.
Right, so I wasn't with you. I'll just tell you where I got set up, right?
Yeah.
So I headed out, and obviously I'm one of the few that are coming out.
Yeah.
So I start making my way through the woods, and we're all kind of lackadaisical about it. But I can see like the main forces starting to muster and coming through the gate. There's a little gateway to get through to the second area of like woodland area, you know, which is a lot more kind of dense brush, I would describe it as, and there's like some down trees and stuff.
Yeah, all kinds of really interesting terrain actually.
Pathways.
Yeah, like natural pathways and man-made pathways. Really cool.
So I basically ran up and basically just found there was a line, and we'd made like a square formation at the end of a path. And I just assumed this is as good a place as any. I tried to spot people that... Everyone's wearing masks. I feel like that's one of the reasons why I got split up so easily was I had no fucking clue who anyone was.
And that's good though, right? And I think it made you do the right things. You filed into the right positions.
Hey, it was I absolutely loved it. I know I'll probably bang on like whatever, but I had such a good time, you know. Anyway, okay, so
from my side, we'll go through mine first. It's probably less interesting, but the obviously I died with the main body of our sort of group of troops, and as nations, you kind of get assigned roles within the monster group that you're playing. So we're a particular type of Jotun called the Ulfenwar, and that's what Navarre are playing. So you kind of get, even within monstering, you're kind of packed up with your
so
kind
there
of
was
nation.
like an Ulfenwar. That was what the
That's kind of was the Navarre
yeah.
at monstering were the Ulfenwar. So anyway, I'd obviously died with the main body of our troops, unlike Dave, and therefore I was still with the Ulfenwar. So we were still doing that skirmishing tactics on the edge of the battle, which took place in the woods, as you said. And a lot of that was just essentially just occupying people. And from our perspective...
What was the terrain there? Were the enemies
heavily wooded.
Were the troops moving in lines towards you?
Yeah, so they were just... Bear in mind, we were essentially at the very opposite side from where you guys were. And from our perspective, all we were really doing was just keeping forces busy, and maybe that was useful in retrospect, but essentially all we were doing was blocking the path between them and the gate out. Right? And then it suddenly came to a point where... And I'd thought it's because we had lost... and they'd achieved their objective. Bear in mind, I didn't know we'd done well, and it turns out the monsters did very well. I thought that what had happened was they'd achieved their objective, and now they were pushing for the gate, and we were the straggly little force guarding the gate, and therefore we get blown away. And essentially we just end up just
cheesing it.
Just essentially being pushed to the side of their formation as they leave for the gate. What in reality is happening, they're retreating to the gate because they've been routed. And essentially we just sort of see them and kind of wave them off, and they were sort of, shouting shit at us, and it's great, and then we just watch them leave.
I still don't really understand. Like, I can draw you these sections of what we know about what happened in the battle. I couldn't tell you decisively what
we're telling you might even be wrong.
Yeah. Well, no. Okay. So from my point of view, we're all in these fairly good lines, and I think most of the troops that were there were the troops that held out for so long in the gate. So we were. I mean,
a good team.
It was a good. Yeah. It was like I felt pretty confident as part of that team. And then there's just this column. It's literally a column walking through this pathway up through the forest, right? Yeah. And it's all the shields, shiny... they must have been Dawn or something, whoever they were, the big shiny people, basically, full of like plate armor with swords and shields.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the goodies are going to win, but we'll give them what for before we fall. Because there aren't that many of us. Yeah. And there's this big column. So the left flank that I'm on charges in. If they'd wait a little bit longer, we could hit them on the side because it's just coming out of the column. Yeah. But either way, they hit them, we run over, we hit the front of the column. And then we're fighting. But it's really indistinguishable how to tell this because I only realised we were winning after it was so obvious we were winning. Yeah. Right? Like
lines crumble so quickly.
I was like... I'm really battling, or trying to get involved. I didn't always sit on the front line. I was kind of like trying to get involved because there wasn't much room to fight. I didn't want to harass people who were fighting that I wanted to fight. But we started, and then slowly, like, a couple of people died, and we're pushing this army back, and then we're pushing it back. Yeah. Right? And I'm like, what the hell's going on? There's a few dead bodies coming, like people lying on the ground.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
like,
walking over the tops of
that's a
people.
character.
Yeah.
That's a person. That's a person that might have been alive for years, or maybe it's only been one session, but they really like their character.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm stepping over him, and we're gonna keep on marching forward. And it was a very odd feeling for me. It's I felt it's a mixture. Anyway, we just carry on doing this. It gets to the point where there's like, I remember we walked past like 4 or 5 fully plated. They looked awesome. I don't know which version they were, but they looked the business. Lying on the ground, just next to me. And we're moving past them. I was like, fuck me, what the hell happened to these guys? You know, like, that's
Turns out you happened to them.
I mean, that's ridiculous. Like, and then I still have mixed feelings about what happened.
Okay, so I'll play from. You said that after the carnage.
No, the battle's still going on.
Right.
But it's got to the point where we're soundly winning.
Yeah.
And it's more like we keep getting stopped by the referees for some. I don't know why we kept getting stopped, but it could have been really bad if we had.
Some points the terrain.
If we charged into them, it could have been really bad because there was a lot of confusion in their lines, and I don't think they expected to get like.
I think they're pretty hot on crowd control, and that's
was really
good.
I always felt
the
safe.
referees are really good. Yeah,
I
always feel safe.
Even in that scrum in the fort.
Even
I never had a moment where I was like, oh god, this is going to turn south. Like sometimes you do it like a metal gig or something where it's like really hectic. I never had that moment. Everyone was always...
Even when you got shot on the head by an arrow and fell down,
and
people are running over you.
Dude, it didn't hurt at all, by the way.
Yeah, and we were just able to get you up and get you out of the action for the few seconds you need to regroup yourself. And then if you want to be in, you can be in. And if you want to pull out, that's all cool too. Mm-hmm. And there's so many different things you can do in combat. And all you got to do is put your hand up and you're out. You know what I mean? And everybody respects that.
Really safe.
And when there's like an injury call, like a man down call, everyone just reacts so quick.
It's great as well. There's also that group thing. Like even if you don't feel like you're confident in knowing what is about to what does a man down look like, or when do I know when to stop? Yeah. You'll know that it's really obvious. There's this group thing where everyone just stops doing what they're doing, and then you're like, "What's going on?" Oh, that's why. You know, even if you don't see the call. Anyway, so I look back. And there's just it's so bad. It's so bad. So there's a guy carrying another guy. Yeah. One guy's got like a big, I think it's like a club or like a double-headed axe, and the other guy's like got a sword or something, and the other guy's club. Anyway, they're walking along. They're walking towards me, and I'm like, where the fuck do you think you're going? Right?
And you say this to them, right?
Yeah, I'm the one who draws attention to them. Right? No one else is like, everyone's kind of milling around and not really noticing. I'm like, oh, yeah. So I start walking over them. Someone else comes over as well, and we start going, what? And I'm like, listen, lads, you've had a good run, all right? Just
give it in.
Look over there. There's meters of our forces to even get to your forces, right? Like, you're not gonna walk through it. Just give it up. Yeah. Just give it up. And they constantly look like they're about to go out in a blaze of glory, and I'm constantly saying to them, lads, it's not worth it. You guys get to walk away from this. Do you know what I mean? Like, you guys get to live, right? It's a great thing you've done here, you know, whatever.
You get to so the guy, his weapon or something.
The guy stops and he puts his mate down. His mate lies down, and he starts getting down on the ground as well. And I take his weapon away. When some other orcs, some bigger orcs here, and they come over and they say, "What the fuck's going on here?" Then I'm like, "Oh," and they're like, "Orders are no prisoners. Stop fucking about." And this guy just walks up and just stabs them, just slices them up.
The guy on the ground, right? Yeah. Just stabs the guy on the ground.
The guy who surrendered and his mate. There was no honour for their deaths here.
And there was another guy, a third guy, right?
No, it's just two of them.
Just the two of them, right.
Just the two of them. And I can't help but feel a little bit... And
you're taking the weapon off him.
Just...
So good. He didn't even have the means to defend himself at the end.
It feels weird. I feel bad for those guys, but it was an amazing moment.
Amazing.
It was so, like, war crimesy. Like, it wasn't even a big deal. Like, they're literally... Now get back to the front lines. Yeah. Like, it was like, what are you doing here now? This is... It's over. Anyway, so we carried on pushing the...
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. And then we carried on pushing these forces back. Eventually, they just buggered off. And it was... Yeah. Amazing, wasn't it?
And, like, so from my perspective, I honestly thought we'd lost. And then afterwards, you're telling me, no, man, I think we kicked their ass.
Like, I was like... It was brutal.
Yeah. Like, I was like, well, it didn't feel like we kicked their ass, but I'll take your word for it. And I heard all kinds of figures getting bandied around.
So they varied hugely.
It could have been anywhere between, like, 20 to even, like, 50 odd guys at the high number. I think that can't be true. But, like, I heard 36 characters died, which is a lot, by the way. You got to think that's a big loss, and like a lot of winter markers. I think like 21 winter markers maybe or something.
21.
Man, it's just like, wow, you did a fantastic job monstering, man.
Well, it was. I don't know. It felt like monsters do win, from what I understand. It was just weird to be on a winning monster team, right?
Course.
Because it was obviously I was really happy because I was jonesing for some action, right? And then to get some action and it to be so.
How did
so
you actually
fun.
feel about your combat as you? How do you think you did? Do you think you did?
I did more learning, and I felt way better.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I was.
A lot of that's the weapon, right? And the confidence.
I had this cool fit, like so I got this sword and it's got a pommel on it, right, which is the bit where you hold it, and I had my hand at the top of the pommel near where the blade is. Okay?
Yeah, the top of the
so
head,
I'm fighting like this, and then ever so often I'll put it behind my shield and just shift it up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so I shift
grip,
up, so it pushes it all the way to the end of my hand, so I'm further away from the blade. So effectively giving me an extra like 2 inches.
Yeah.
Right, or whatever, and then I same attack again, but it's a different length, and I could get some hits with that.
Yeah.
I was so fucking pleased to find that out, and I was so pleased with myself to figure out that I could do that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's great.
Yeah, the wiggly shield thing. Very effective.
Just
Still not
turning
really
your
sure.
body is an important one.
Still need to work on generally shield work and what I should be doing with it. I've got a long way to go, but still.
Those
effective.
kind of combats where you've got like essentially 3 to 4 different weapons threatening you at any particular time, and some of them might like to be mild threats, but things can change so quickly. You lunge in for an attack and you get hit, and then you get hit. So you hit the guy you were aiming for, and then you get hit by 3 weapons. Well, there's no good there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it.
Do you know what we should? Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
battle was great.
That was great. Absolutely buzzing coming off the back of it. We came home.
Yeah.
And then I've had a nap.
Yeah, we literally
Little
had a nap.
And,
Literally just camped in the
okay,
tent.
so there's a thing that I definitely get, and I'm sure other players get this too, which is I am really, really hyped for battles, and my adrenaline
just dumps.
It's afterwards. I'm like it just dumps, right? And we didn't bring enough snacks. Basically,
no. Next time
chocolate bars.
Yeah, just little things.
I mean, chocolate bars and energy drinks.
I think last time we had a lot of jerky. We also had all the little packs that I bought.
I feel like you need the sugar though, for the. And I am the most anti-sugar guy ever, but just for
a couple of bits, right? A couple of treats after a hard day's work is not.
I mean, but we got our exercise in. Let's put it that way.
We brought like a cool box with some ice in and put all the beers and stuff in there.
Coolers with ice. Yeah. Oh my god, cold beer throughout.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It kept cool really well actually. That was a really good cooler. It was like one of those plastic ones, not one of the fabric ones that you can get.
Yeah, you can thank Phil in my office for that.
It was fantastic.
He hooked me up. I should probably get him something for it.
So we did a little bit of drinking after we woke up, and I think that the nap was much needed. It was nice.
I don't regret the nap at all.
No, not at all.
Right. Should we talk about when we went to the Brass Coast?
Yeah. So. Well, you lead into that, I guess.
Okay. We went for the idea was that we were going to walk around and kind of just because we're all much more interested in like looking at other nations. I think we did a tour before, but with less understanding of who they were. And now we wanted to just really get a good old nosy on what other nations are like and how they behave. Mm-hmm. So we walked around a whole bunch of different ones. Like the Marches had a really good like fair on.
That was awesome.
That was really good fun. Really enjoyed
that.
Really
awesome.
They had. A stockade where
you could like sponge a senator
or a winter marker, and it was to raise money for something. And there were some people playing instruments in the background. And I said to you, like, out of character, like, isn't it cool that it's just like those people playing there, and it just adds to the whole scene?
Yeah,
you're like. There's people playing over there because it was so
immersive.
Yeah, it was like you didn't even register that this like.
It was almost like a soundtrack in a video game, and I was the character.
Yeah,
sitting there watching the guy, the senator get sponged.
There was a guy doing fortunes.
Yeah,
I wanted to do it, but
it was a bit pricey, wasn't it?
He wanted to charge to watch, and I was like, man, I want to spend 5 rings on this. I don't want to spend 10.
I think we meant to come back, but we just got distracted by other stuff because we were going to sort of step out and not listen and then go in and spend.
There's a lot going on, right?
I mean, when you're a new player, you've got limited amount of money, right? Like, I think when you've got buku money, you can just be like, yeah, sure, I'll stay and listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, why not? It'd be just a great time.
And then we walked over to what's it called? The
League is that?
Is it the League?
Yeah, with the player you're talking about.
I am talking about the play.
Okay, so we walk into the league, and this is really fucking awesome, by the way. It's just like the fact that people will role play things and take risks with their role play.
Ian,
That are
tell the
phenomenal.
story first.
So we walk up and we're just kind of walking around. We pop to the pub. We get a really nice drink.
Chat to some folk in there.
Chat
They
to
were
some
nice.
really great time. Walk out and we kind of are moving on to the next pub. And there's this play going on. We sort of walk up to it and listen to it. And the first few lines, it's literally an open air play, and you can just walk up freely. By the way,
It looked like a sitcom, right? There was a few guys doing it, and they were just kind of like doing these little quips and little theatrical lines. And
it's literally a live air show that you can just walk up to.
Yeah.
And people are acting it out, and they've obviously put work into putting all these lines together, OC and everything.
We had a chuckle at a couple of the
and
jokes.
that was the crazy thing. So we have a chuckle at the first few jokes, and then all of a sudden,
oh my god,
like something from Breakfast at Tiffany's or something.
Oh my god.
This orc character, or this guy who's basically
It's like
I
an
don't know,
orc head.
faced.
It's an orc head.
He literally is just like
Oh my god, it was a
orc.
dead orc.
Was it? It couldn't have been. I can't even remember. I thought it was a player dressed up
Maybe.
as an
That's
orc.
how rumours get started, Ian.
But like anyway, leans around and starts giving all of these kind of like, oh, I'm an orc and I can't read, and all this kind of stuff.
Oh,
and
look
it's
at me, I'm so stupid.
Yeah, literally like this kind of just blatant racism.
And then the guy was all like, oh, look at him, he's pretending he can read.
Yeah, and it was just like, oh my god, just like all of a sudden there's that just immediate racism. We were just like, and it was just so. It was so brash and open.
It was that moment in what's it called?
Bioshock Infinite.
Bioshock Infinite, where you go through this wonderful opening bit, and it's one of the best
all
intros
beautiful,
ever, and it's really utopian. And then you come through to this stage, and then it's like there's this really racist shit happens, and that's how me and you felt about it, right?
Yeah, and it was just, but like OC, that is amazing, right? That they're willing to do that and make that.
It was awesome,
and it was just the fact that like people laughed. Like, and it's like, oh my god, like, it was just so good, but it's so good.
We basically just like
immediately looked at each other.
Yeah, like, and we were just. It was almost like the laugh. I wish I could have taken my laugh back for the other jokes because how disgusted I was at these. The tonal shift in our like what we felt towards them was like absolute.
And we just immediately we're not going to the second bar, and we just left.
Yeah, we just left
the nation.
Yeah, we left. Yeah.
But it's just like what's kind of cool about it is that might not be representative at all, that experience, or like that is maybe just something where
I think there's supposed to be more racism talks than there is. I think one of the things is that I think like.
Bear in mind, they're not
most
human,
people,
right?
because they're all people that go LARPing and sort of people that are like, hey, can't we just get along and like I respect your thing and whatever. Yeah. Unfortunately, in the actual world of Empire, these were slaves like 10 years ago, right? Like look at the Deep South in America and how horrendous some of those states and the citizens there treated their back, like segregation till the fucking it's ridiculous. Anyway,
it's crazy. But people will role play that out is really cool and really brave, right?
Yeah, it was cool,
and I really appreciate it, and it actually adds so much character to Empire when we sort of experienced it and were able to walk away from it. That was fantastic.
Should we talk about? Should we talk about songs and story time?
Yeah, so I think we'll probably horribly bastardize songs and story time into just probably one long bit because I think like we'll end up merging both the nights.
My memory, I can't really separate Friday and Saturday when we kind of went, and there were different times, right?
Exactly. So
okay, first thing, no benches anymore.
No. There were a few actually, like because they'd obviously done that.
No, but I think this is people that are bringing them along.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There's no
but
more.
Most people were either sitting or bringing their own stuff, which weirdly helped us out because we bought our own stuff to sit on, and we kind of like
literally just rocked up, and we were kind of right behind the musicians. Or this is how I remember us. I don't know if we were like that both times.
No, it's the second night. That was the Saturday night.
But anyway, so we're rocked up behind the musicians or wherever, and we're watching these performances, and these performances are just phenomenal. Again, phenomenal. It's so good. Like, for example, there was this bit where this guy steps up and he tells this story about this orc called Kalain.
Yeah.
And he talks about how his name is Kalain or whatever. And he's basically giving you this legend about this guy. And when he first starts, I've got to be honest with you, I thought, oh no, it's a spoken word thing. I'm not really in the mood for it.
It's going to take a while telling this one, and it's going to be,
But he told a story that had a full-on intro. Like, the story, it was 10 minutes in, or it felt like that, but in a good way. and the story hadn't even begun. That was the backstory.
Yeah, it was like setting up the stage for the
Like,
the first time. So the orcs, when they reach the afterlife, there's like a chasm.
But they have to jump across.
They have to jump across it to reach like the afterlife.
And this is like
And-
the first time an orc gets over that
Yeah,
chasm.
Kalain is the first one to get across, and basically the way he did that was by being triple hard and having a spear
A ridiculously
stuck
epic
through
story.
him. I think he
speared
He
himself.
speared himself to make it look like he was still standing despite him going to die, so the enemy wouldn't approach.
They
that's
shot him
how,
with arrows for 3 days
yeah,
they were
because
so
he's
scared
that
of him.
fucking hard. And then in the afterlife, he whips the spear out of his own body, runs across it, and then uses the spear to cling into the mountain on the other side or whatever. This
So he can
chasm,
climb up
so he can
it.
climb up.
It's so good.
Holy shit! That
The
guy's,
guy delivered the story so well.
he has this wonderful thing where his timing is. He's got this. It's really hard to describe because I don't know anything about this world, but he had a
beat
rhythm
to
to
it, a
him,
cadence
and then
to it,
when
yeah.
he's changed from that cadence, it was all deliberate and just wonderfully told. It was
Beautiful tonal shifts, all kinds of stuff. It was
just
phenomenal.
wonderful, and getting the audience involved as well.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus, what a masterclass on how that sort of thing should be
Yeah,
done.
there was this whole thing about how the orcs will tell you they don't dance, but we're Navarre, we know that everybody
And then
dances.
everyone says, everyone knows, yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
and it's just like he involved the crowd in that, but then sometimes he'd even subvert that line with variations.
Towards
of
the
line.
end, he hammered on not repeating the line, which was
Yeah.
like this wonderful like meta to the whole story, where it became more
So
serious,
good.
right? Because it was
Yeah.
becoming more tragic.
Yeah, it's great. It was phenomenal.
The pirates doing their thing.
That was phenomenal. The
fucking
drunken
excellent.
dance thing, and they're kind of at the end they're kind of crawling along. They've got their mugs out on the floor, and
Just-
people are like, "Pay them money," and
Dude.
people are like, "Get them off the
Dude,
floor."
the pirates all weekend were fantastic value.
Brilliant.
In fact, I feel like I should come back as a pirate next time. because
I could, yeah, maybe if fan goes and does a bit of piracy, it might be fun.
maybe,
A little bit of high seamanship.
yeah, maybe.
That'd be quite good fun.
Well, let's see if we
Who
will.
knows? Who knows? But that was great. Like, there's so many good performances, and just both spoken word and song. It felt like this time maybe the songs were a bit more serious, but that was in a good way.
Yep.
And all the performances were amazing. Like, and we should say we popped over to some other nations as well with regards to entertainment and stuff. We saw some performances in Wintermark, and they were really cool too.
Oh yeah, the only problem with them was that they were right outside the front of the bar.
Yeah, so
So
that's a
you
bit of a
had
shame.
you had people like leaving the bar and having a conversation, and I'm not blaming them for this.
No.
You're leaving a bar and having a conversation. You walk out to
Immediately in the circle.
someone singing a wonderfully delicate, wonderful song, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, it's a bit of a shame. But Wintermark got game, man. Some of the
Really
some
good
of their,
performances.
performances were
Well,
really
but you've got
nice.
to bear in mind the people who come to songs and story times. I think is what I'm really trying to say is I think that's the best arena in Empire for songs and stories.
What I like is other nations come to sort of
Yeah,
story
and
time
exactly.
do
And
it.
I think you get all these great performers from all these other nations. It's
Yeah.
literally like a bardic troupe of just like
So good.
like there's people who walk up and they're from other nations, and the voice of the nation will recognise them and be like, "Wow, you're here to perform. Let's do this."
I'd had a few drinks, but I really committed to being part of it this
Yeah.
time around.
This time around, I was singing along, and you cheer at certain points, and
Yeah.
you'll shout things out
Yeah.
in a good way. You know, it's
Just
cool.
really enjoyed it. Yeah.
So I think this is a the time. This will upset the timeline a bit, but a memory of mine that I really loved from Songs and Story Time was that I went away, and I came back, and it was right at the very end of Songs and Story Time, and there's just this group of people around the fireball that we have in the middle, with their swords drawn, sort of thrusting them in the air at the call
yeah.
of all these different things.
That was the dance that I did at the
That's,
end.
and that's literally what I was going to say. And then I spotted you in that crowd
Yeah.
with the sword, and I was standing on the outside, and I was so proud as an Ashbourne. I was so
They
proud.
were like, everyone got a weapon and you can come along. And I was just like, oh, it was my axe actually.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I have a weapon, so I can do this. And I
Yeah.
just
Leapt into the
jumped
circle.
into it and
Yeah.
did some singing and walking around. It was a bit like tribal.
Yeah, it was
and
gloriously tribal.
It was. I got so into it.
Yeah.
Like,
You looked into it. I couldn't get your eye contact. I was going to look at you to give you
no,
like a
I was
fucking
doing
fist
it.
bump.
I was literally doing
But,
it like just for me almost.
Yeah, it was
Right?
great.
It was,
and you're right up there against the flame ball in the middle.
I loved
It's
it.
great.
I was looking at my blade, like thinking about
The stories it can tell.
Oh, it was awesome. Like
Yeah.
I know that sounds like I went God, if I have a future in politics, that will be the bit that will be cut out and like used as evidence against me. But no, I really, really enjoyed it. It was
all of these things, and what's so strong about songs and story time and things like that in other nations is the way that it brings a nation together. It reinforces that identity, that sort of really lovely unity, and that feeling of what LARP is at its best.
I do want to quickly nip back and talk about. This is the whole thing I want to talk about, which is the place in the center of the area, the food place.
Place is amazing.
We didn't go to that place. We always went down to the vendors, and there's God, this is terrible that we can't remember the name. There'll be people spitting blood, but there's like a canteen area in the middle, and they do like different meals, and they also have like burgers. You can get burgers all the time there, right? And there's always a queue, and the women that work there,
amazing.
Holy shit, they're awesome. I watched this woman.
Their customer service game is ridiculous.
Jesus, she makes everyone feel like a special little camper.
And you have all these different personality types, just so many people, constant flow of people.
She's amazing.
And she was just blasting through these orders, engaging with everybody.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
So you order, right? You could order one of the specials that they have or whatever, or a burger. Me and Ian ate a lot of burgers while we were there. Yeah. But while you're waiting, so you order, you have a nice time talking to them, but then you go and wait, right?
Yeah.
But the entertainment is watching. It's like all the different people in the queue. There's RP going on. The whole bar is kind of
people are getting ready to eat. I see.
It's so awesome. I love that place so much. I'm always up for a burger basically in future, because just going down there and just hanging out and the atmosphere in there. Please go down there, spend money there, and just enjoy the ambiance of such a wonderful place. That was one of the most alive in character places I've been to.
Yeah, it was so good, and it was because like inside battle, it's easy to RP, right? You're in it, but out of side battle, it's a bit harder to actually get the RPM going, right?
There's like bars are like focal points,
and so they really draw you together, right? I mean, there's certain points when someone's going to be role playing hard personally, directly at you, right? And then you can instantly meet that, and that's role play. But the passive role-playing experience of just walking around really comes into its own when you enter a bar or an environment that's alive, and all of a sudden you're just role-playing, learning, saying what you know, because it's quite interesting now to know a few things occasionally. I heard this, or I know this.
We had a conversation with some people in the marches where they were getting quite critical of the Empress.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
We didn't say don't speak bad about it, but we made our feelings clear that it's not okay to necessarily talk to us about the Empress not being okay, right? It was interesting, right? That was kind of...
Yeah, but also I think because the relationship with the Empress and the Var was kind of weird, we also all felt that we could talk about it. Like there is a natural, there is a feeling there is a bit of a tension between certain nations and the Imperatrix, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's kind of like... I think that's interesting.
Well,
the fact that we're able to explore it.
The rich guy that got murdered was wearing the Empress's armor.
Really?
Yeah, so there's a thing about, was it just a mistaken identity thing?
Wow. There's so much crazy stuff.
And all of this is word of mouth stuff as well.
All of it's word of mouth and completely unreliable.
I could be fake newsing the hell out of this right now.
Oh man, imagine. But like,
it was all my plan. Yeah. We'll make a podcast.
This whole thing was like a fake news platform.
Fake news the hell out of Empire until everyone goes mad.
Nah, but it's great. It's just like the fact is that you just say what you know, right? And it's just so much crazy stuff happens.
Okay, rain. I wrote rain on a piece of paper.
So yeah, I mean, it did start raining.
Then.
And actually in the battle and stuff, that was kind of cool. But you've got this atmosphere of the rain.
I think me and you after E1 are so like, is this all the rain?
This is nothing, right?
Whatever.
This is character building rain.
Yeah, exactly. This is just,
this is RP rain.
Yeah, this is RP rain. This isn't.
And it was cool. And the tent, because we had the awning as well. I think that meant that it was really cool because we could actually go back to the awning, sit down, and just, it doesn't matter if it's just a little diddle of rain outside, you know, and then just be able to kind of move in and out of the tent under the awning, have the chairs there. You're not kind of hopping around in your fucking underpants inside the tent. You know what I mean? It's a lot cooler just to be able to do that, just from a comfort level.
Yeah.
Stand now, soldiers of the Empire! Draw your swords and steady your nerve! For today,
seems like it's almost go time. Let me hear your battle cry.
We are now
I don't know what I'm
for glory.
Right. Bring it to them.
Battle.
Let's go! Charge!